Hello. Today we're going to talk about Proterra, Natura's day in the life of a tech and the expectations we have of the people who are front and center outside directly dealing with our customers. It's important to us that we have everybody on the same page doing the same things, because people will come to expect a certain type, certain level of service, and we want to provide that always with the idea that we've met the criteria that we're trying to push. So when somebody shows up to a house, it's always going to look the same, always going to be the same. We start with the core values that we have. First one being we're family. We treat each other with respect, and we want to reach out and help each other throughout, no matter what happens during the day, during the week, at any point. So we're always respectful and mindful that we're a family here. We also take ownership of what happens. So if we're having some difficulty, something breaks at a service, if we have any issue at all, we take ownership of it and fix it. The person that's the last one at the service, or the person that's there at the time, is the one who's responsible for fixing the issue, no matter what it might be, or whoever may have actually caused it or what occurred. We want us to be able to do the service and treat our customers in a way that they know we can be able to get the job done. And then the third one of our core values is growth. When we're working together as a family, taking ownership of everything that we're doing, we're going to grow. And that is what we want to do. We want to grow both the company, we want to grow personally, and we want to grow together so that we can be able to become the best pest control company. Strike that, not the best pest control company. We want to be the best customer service company out there that does pest control. Now, the service starts with making sure that you've got all the right equipment. You want to get everything together for your day and make sure that it's on the truck. Make sure that you have a ladder. There's going to be times you're going to need to reach up above your head. You might need to get into attics, might need to do some work on ceiling or some area that we need to get to. Always have a ladder. Don't want to borrow the customers. Make sure that you have some type of shoe covers. If you're going to be walking inside of somebody's house, you don't want to drag everything from the outside in. Nothing says that you're not a professional like dirt and junk that you've tracked in on your shoes. And then knee pads. You want to have knee pads because oftentimes crawling around in a crawl space or even a smaller attic is going to be painful on the legs. And you want to be able to make sure that you can get around and maneuver without ending up having any issues. Safety glasses. Anytime you apply a chemical above your shoulder or you're applying an aerosol, you want to have safety glasses on. Never know when a wind might kick up or something might spray back in your eyes. And you don't want to end up with any type of problems with your eyes from the products that we use. Next thing would be a bump hat. Should be something that's maybe not necessarily a hard hat, but definitely plastic and can withstand the impact of a nail if you stand up too quickly or as you crawl around in a crawl space or an attic. The bump cap, a hard hat, it's going to protect your head. And speaking from personal experience, that's something that happens all the time when you're crawling around and you look up suddenly or maneuver and there's a pipe or something. The next thing would be a flashlight. You want to have a good flashlight, preferably an LED. They hold up longer, they're brighter, they're easier to work with. So you want to have something Also have a backup, even if it's a smaller pen light, because if you're in a crawl space or an attic or you're trying to find something, sometimes the flashlight will just die suddenly. And with a backup, you can be able to at least see your way clear to safety. But the flashlight should be bright enough that from a couple of feet away, even in daylight, you can illuminate what you're looking at. And then coveralls. If you feel like you need them, make sure you grab some coveralls, even if it's going to be something that you can be able to dispose of, but it's going to protect your uniform, make you look sharp when you're going to the next customer. And then as far as products, make sure that you've got the dusts, make sure you've got baits, both granular baits, liquid baits if you need them. If you've got a need for the gel bait, anything you need, make sure that you've got it stocked, because you could end up using a number of products at 5-6 houses and still have the rest of your day to go through and you've used it up. Make sure you have plenty of the liquid materials and that you've loaded up all the water, everything that you need for your day. Nothing shows less of a professional attitude than to be out and not have everything you need to do the work. When we start the day and we get to the office, we want to make sure that if you didn't come in a uniform, that you grab your shirt, pants, whatever you're going to be wearing, and look sharp when you leave. The customer will be able to see how your service is going to be performed based on what you look like. It may not necessarily be the right way, but most people make a decision about how good somebody is at whatever they're doing within the first 30 seconds just by looking at them. So make sure you have that little added extra that the customer can feel confident that you're going to be able to do the job for them. You want to clock in at 7:15. Make sure that you're right there on the button and ready to go at 7:15. And then check your schedule. Look for new accounts. Are there starts, initial services that we have to do? Make sure you have the right equipment, the pest control materials, everything that you need, handouts, anything that might help to add information to the customer so that if they have questions, you can answer them. Any type of specific service needs. Is there something that's out there? Are you doing animal control? Do you need more glue boards for a particular pest? Whatever it might be, make sure that you've got that taken care of. And then, are there any set times that you have to be aware of? If you have to be somewhere at a set time, you want to make sure that you have that knowledge already so you can plan your day. And then call ahead to your first service. If it's 8 o'clock, make sure you call them at a reasonable time, maybe just before 8, so that they can know that you're there to do the work. And then get your truck ready. As we said, get your product stocked. Make sure you got everything set up. If it's going to be wet weather, make sure that if you need anything, garbage bags or something to hold wet materials, you've got it. Make sure you have any seasonal needs set up. If you need to use something to stop the water in the tank from freezing. If you need to bring something specific for the summer, like wasp traps or anything like that, make sure you got them ready. Make sure that you get to the gas station. You don't want to be having to stop in the middle of a run because you're running behind and now you've got to hurry up and get gas. Make sure you start the day with it. And then get to your first stop at 8 o'clock. It's a lot to do. So you want to get in and get everything done and make sure that you're ready to go. Then when we service, first thing that we're going to do is make sure we're parked in the street for the best angle. You're going to be pulling hose. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up to where the right side of the truck is available to the structure. You don't have to pull the hose over the truck. And make sure that you park out in the street, not in the drive. If for some reason the truck is leaking, or if you have any kind of fuel issues, you don't want to have that end up on their driveway. So park in the street, get a good angle for the hose so that way you can be able to carry everything in. And then if you're carrying cones, put them at the rear of the truck. It's a nice safety added benefit to the customers so that they can see that we care about what's going on around the truck. The reason we put the cones there is that when we leave, we have to walk around the truck. Excuse me. And it gives us a chance to make sure that there's nobody there, no kids, animals, equipment that we left. Then check the routes app. Make sure that we have the right address. Check the customer name. See if there's any current issues that they're dealing with and what the notes were as far as specific to that account. Look at the last service. What did we use? What did they have problems with? What did the technician say could be an issue? And then any special notes. Is there anything they wanted to have done or didn't have done? Did they want the inside, not want the inside? Did they want you to pay attention to their shed? Whatever it is, that'll be in the special notes. You want to have that information before you walk up. Then when you greet the customer, grab the Webster, that de-webbing device, and make sure that you've got that with you, because once you've greeted them, you're going to start your service. Ring the doorbell. Now, sometimes, especially in these times with coronavirus, we aren't able to go up to the house and greet them personally. So you might have to call. But either way, make sure the customer knows that you're on the property, you're ready to do the work. If you do go up to the door, knock, use the doorbell, and step back at least 3 feet. You want to be not directly in their face when they open the door, because a lot of people feel offended if somebody's standing right there. And if we're dealing with some of the older customers or strictly female, we don't want to intimidate somebody. Introduce yourself, who you are, and the fact you're with Natura or Proterra. Stay while you're there, and then ask how they're doing. Ask if they've seen the pests, if the last treatment worked, if there's been any sightings, anything that you need to take care of. And if they have any concerns or areas that they need special attention at. If they want to have inside service, find out now, because you can be able to get that taken care of first before you go around the outside. Now, why would you do that? Because you don't want to track the dirt and everything you're going to get into around the outside back inside after you're done. And then ask them to open up the garage. We do need to get in the garage, and we want to make sure we do a service there because it's the quickest entrance into the house. And we don't want the pests to get that far. Now, sometimes we do deal with weather problems, whether it's rain, high winds, or snow, very cold, whatever it might be. We want to let the customer know that the service is going to be altered a little bit. We're going to have to tell them that we're going to go into the attic or the crawl space. And if it's going to be the attic, make sure that the area that we get access to is covered. In other words, bring a sheet, a piece of plastic, something to cover the clothes that are in there, especially if it's a closet. And if need be, go ahead and let the customer know that we'd be happy to go up and check the attic for them if they want to set up a follow-up service or a reservice or a callback, whatever we designate. So that way we can get up there and they can prep the area by moving the clothes and everything. So we don't want to have anything from the attic fall down on their stuff. So when we get up in the attic or into the crawl space, we're going to be looking for access points. Oftentimes you can see light coming in, so we know that there's a hole or a gap or a crack, something that's allowing insects to get in. Check all the vents, make sure there's some type of screening on there. That way it'll prevent most of the insects and rodents from getting in. And then look for any pest presence. Are there runways for rodents? Are there hanging nests from wasps that might be down there? Are there dead insects, live insects, any debris? Check areas underneath there that are adjacent to drains or water pipes, things like that, where the insects could be able to get moisture and survive longer. The other thing is whatever treatment you're going to do is going to depend on the pest. And you won't really know that till you get in there. So make sure you've got an aerosol with you. You've got some baits with you. You've got a B&G or some compressed air sprayer that you can carry with a liquid. Bring glue boards. If nothing else, at least get some glue boards down and we can follow up another time and see if there's anything running around. And then whatever residual materials you're going to use. And target them specifically for the areas that the access is to get into the living area. So if you're in the crawl space, look for the areas around the pipes where they go into the house. Look at the registers where the HVAC system is. Anything like that, because people run a lot of cable, they run a lot of wires, and it sometimes, if they're not correctly sealed, can allow access for the pests to get inside. On the outside, especially in inclement weather, if it's raining and you're going to apply any liquid on a wet surface, it's not going to stick. So you want to make sure the surface is dry. Worst case, you can take the B&G and treat upwards under any siding or into cracks and crevices that are around the structure. If you can't get to those with the liquid, then you can always dust up into the wall voids or dust areas around the thresholds. You can put out granules and allow the water from the rain to be able to activate them. So there are things you can be able to do. Even baiting can be done, but you'd have to make sure that the products are going to stay dry and be around for the pest. If you can do it, backpack applications are great, especially if it's going to be an area where it's going to remain dry. Pipe accesses, garage door frames, dusting. There's plenty of things that can be done. You just have to use your imagination and your ability that you've learned both through experience and in training. Continue with the outside service. You want to inspect and deweb. Most important part is to deweb. You've got to make sure that the customer doesn't see any signs of webbing or wasp hanging nests, anything like that, because to them that says the service wasn't completed. So you want to make sure that you've got everything knocked down and the house is clean. While you're doing this, do your inspection. Check to see if there's any areas where the pest could get in. If there's gaps or cracks or voids that might have access to get into the walls or into the structure itself, make sure those things are all noted so that you can come back and do your treatment in those areas. So right now, during your inspection, you're also formulating a plan for how you're going to treat this structure. Look for access points, harborage points, moisture areas, any kind of debris, leaf litter, things like that. Clutter, stacked wood, firewood, gaps in dark areas, especially dark areas, because insects look at that as a place they could hide. And then whatever attractants there might be. Maybe there's a grill that's in the back that's dirty and they might be attracted to. Maybe there's chickens or farm animals that are kept on the property. Any of those things can lead to potential pest attraction. And once the pests are attracted to the area, it's not much of a jump for them to get inside. And you can see around the structure, there's a number of areas where pests can be able to either gain access or stay for harborage. And these are all points that you're going to want to treat. And at a minimum, you're going to want to inspect, because as you're going around and dewebbing, these are the places that you're going to have to check to see that nothing is getting in or nothing can, and nothing's sitting there with a nest. Oftentimes we'll go around and do a treatment around the foundation and just think that we're treating, and suddenly wasps come flying out because they had a nest in there. So you want to pay attention to every little detail and focus on that house while you're there. For the treatment, especially non-chemical, we practice as much as possible environmental friendly product use. So if there's something we can do to keep the pests from getting in by trimming vegetation, we won't do that, but we can make that recommendation. if they remove debris, if they rake back leaf debris, if they seal some areas. If it's something really small, go ahead and seal it. We'll have some steel wool that should be on your truck that you can be able to put inside there to at least prevent the pests until it can be better sealed with some caulk. But at least you can take care of them while you're there. And any kind of non-chemical things, keeping all vegetation 18 inches away from the structure, making sure that tree limbs aren't overhanging or touching the structure. These things you can mention to the customer, and what they can do is get that taken care of, and it'll help prevent the pest from getting in without us having to do any extra chemical application. If we are doing any kind of chemical application, we're going to be doing at least the minimum of what we do for the winter inclement service. And that's going to mean making sure that we get the product in the cracks and crevices where it's going to stay and not be washed away. We can be able to increase the quantity by using the power sprayers. And that means if we're going to do rock beds, we're going to do mulch beds, fence lines, anywhere that material can be absorbed, we definitely want to make sure that we're getting good volume down. And that may require a gallon for every 5 square feet. It's a lot, but it's going to get us that area where the pests are trying to crawl through. Topically spraying just on the rocks isn't going to get underneath where earwigs and ants and millipedes like to hide. And then any broadcasts we're going to do around the perimeter, the landscape, the fence lines, we want to make sure that we're getting the material out, and that's best covered with the power rig. Then when we complete the service, we want to make sure that you're putting all the equipment back. As you're going through and thinking about what you just did, you want to document all your findings in the notes in the field route. Take pictures. 1 or 2 pictures can say a lot that maybe you can't put into words. Any potential areas you want to have exclusion done, make notes and get to the office, and then flag that note so that the office can see that this could be an exclusion job. Make sure that if there's any recommendations you have for them, you've left them in the notes for the customer. And then if the customer isn't home, leave a door hanger so they know that you were there. And finally, we want to educate the customer. So as we're documenting the service, we want to make sure that the customer understands in the notes everything we did, everything that we expect to do, everything that we might do on the next service. So that way they're aware of what we're going to be coming back to do. Plus, we want to make sure that they understand that there's certain things they can do to help us out. And that's the big thing. We want to work as a partner with the customer to be able to take care of their pest problems. You want to make sure that if there's any notes to the office, you flag the note. Make sure that if the next technician that goes out there in 3 months needs to know anything specific, like location of bait boxes, codes to fences or something like that, make sure that it's put into there because they're going to be looking at the notes also. Then take pictures. Sometimes a picture can help somebody to be able to see where a bait station is or know where a potential problem could be from rodents. And any recommendations, do they need to sweep? Do they need to clean? Do they need to seal? Whatever it might be, let's make sure that we get that in there. And lastly, following up. Is there a necessity for follow-up phone call? If you want the office to call in a week or 2 weeks just to check and see how things are going, please put that in there. That way the customer knows that you're on top of it and that you're taking ownership of that treatment. So with everything we do in all of our services, the key thing is to remember that we own that service. And that means not just while we're there, but also helping the person who's going to be there next.